You're listening to Change Your POV Podcast, episode 74.
You name it, we're talking about it. If it's something that's important to guys and it's on their mind, that's what we're talking about. But really what I want guys to do is I want them to become stronger. So we cover like 3 main areas of strength. We talk a lot about physical fitness and physical strength. We talk about mental fortitude. And I see that as being something that's really lacking in society today. And the third component, which is emotional resilience. And those 3 things, quite honestly, are really lacking.
Welcome to Change Your POV Podcast, helping you navigate transitions in your life like entering and exiting college or the military, changing jobs or careers, and providing you with the coaching and mentorship needed to help you advance in your personal or professional life. Sometimes all you need is to change your point of view. Now, here's your host, Eddie Lazary.
Hello, folks, and welcome to Change Your POV Podcast. Today's guest is Order of Man's very own Ryan Michler. Ryan grew up most of his childhood without a permanent role model in his life. The few men that were in his life were less than stellar examples, and that's why he created the Order of Man. Order of Man gives men a community and resource to become better. Well, better at what? Better at self-mastery, family, money, and everything in between. Bennett and I really enjoyed having Ryan on. In this interview, we talk about all kinds of stuff. We hope you enjoy this interview as much as we did. Let's join the discussion with Ryan now. All right, folks, welcome to Change Your POV Podcast. I am your host, Eddie Lazary.
And I am Bennett Tanton.
And we are here with Ryan Michler. So a lot of folks out there have been kind of turned on to Ryan through a lot of what Bennett has said in previous episodes. And Ryan, don't worry, we're going to have a much cooler intro to be when I go into the post-production of this episode. But man, I'm very excited that you are here on the show. Thanks for your time. I know you're a very busy guy. So why don't you just take a moment and kind of bring us up to speed of who Ryan is, where you come from, what's your background, what you're all about.
Yeah, you bet. Appreciate you guys having me on the show. I'm excited about the conversation. As far as a background, I am a financial advisor by trade, but and I still do that. I still got my financial planning practice, but quite honestly, it got a little boring, and I was ready for something more. And I've always been on a self-discovery path for myself and trying to figure out specifically what it means to be a man. As I got married and I started to have kids, I've really thought about how can I be the best dad? How can I be the best father? How can I be a good business owner? And I've got a lot of life experience that has helped me with that. And I've failed miserably at certain areas of life. And I feel like I've got something to say. And as I started to have some of these conversations, a lot of the men resonated with what I was saying and have a very similar upbringing background as I do, and felt the need for this. So we launched Order of Man just over a year ago, with the goal of helping guys become better leaders. And we're working to do that slowly, but it's working, and guys are starting to respond, and this resonates with the men that I'm working with. So it's been an exciting process.
So that's how many guys are in the Order of Man Facebook group now?
In the Facebook group, I think we've got roughly 5,200 guys. I think we get anywhere from maybe 40 to 60 new members per day. So it's actually really starting to take off, and it's really exciting to see.
That's crazy. Because when I joined, it was like 1,200.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I remember the days where it was like 200 guys in there, and most of them I just added. I didn't even ask them if I could. I just added them to it, which I'm not advocating anybody do, by the way. But it's pretty cool to see guys wanting to join outside of me having to coerce people to do it.
Yeah, so really quick, like describe like what is Order of Man, what it's, how is it structured? What are the, what are men coming to you looking for, and kind of what kind of service is that you provide?
Yeah, I mean, just right on the surface level, we talk about a lot of different things. So we talk about relationships, we talk about money and health and business. We talk about self-mastery. We talk about finance. I mean, everything, you name it, we're talking about it. If it's something that's important to guys and it's on their mind, that's what we're talking about. But really what I want guys to do is I want them to become stronger. So we cover like 3 main areas of strength. We talk a lot about physical fitness and physical strength. We talk about mental fortitude. And I see that as being something that's really lacking in society today. And the third component, which is emotional resilience. And those 3 things, quite honestly, are really lacking. But I think when guys focus on those things, they're actually able to live a more fulfilled life. They're able to do what they want. They can connect with people. They can make more money. They can get in shape. All of the things that I hear guys talking about on a daily basis come back to building strength and fortitude and resilience. And that's what we're working on. So I guess maybe a little bit more to answer your question. We do the podcast, we do the blog, all designed to give guys that information. We've got some other things above and beyond that. We've got a closed mastermind group, kind of an exclusive mastermind group. And then we've actually got a retreat coming up in September, which is kind of cool too. So we're trying to incorporate a lot of different ways to do this. That way it can facilitate and introduce the process and the idea and the things we're talking about to as many guys as possible.
That's cool. Now, how did this start? Did you just kind of, I mean, you were doing your financial advising gig, and then would you just talk to some like old Army buddies and just kind of kick up a conversation, and or maybe even just start kind of a small 4 or 5 person mastermind and just kind of grew from there? Like, how did it start?
Yeah, so I really hit rock bottom. Oh, this was roughly 7 years ago. My wife and I actually decided that we were going to separate, that the marriage wasn't working out. And that's a long story, but for a long time, I really blamed her about the separation that we went through. We were separated for roughly 2-3 months, 2.5-3 months, somewhere in there. And I blamed her for that. I said, you know, why wasn't she being a good wife? What I thought a good wife should do? Why was she being disloyal? Why was she doing this? And it was all on her. And somewhere in that separation, I learned and realized, you know what, maybe it's not as much her fault as I'm making it out to be. Maybe it's actually my fault. Maybe I'm the one who's not being a good father or a good husband. Maybe I'm the one who's not really being loyal and not treating her the way I should be treating her. So that's really where I hit rock bottom. It was a dark time. It was a bad time for me. And I, like I said, went on this self-discovery process of connecting with other guys who are having success in their business and their family and their marriages and their level of fitness. And it's really where I started to learn how to become the best version of myself. And when I went to work on that, it was literally like a light switch on the wall that I could go flip, and she responded to that. And it wasn't about manipulation. It was about me becoming the best version I could be, and then her responding to that rather than me trying to fix her, which is what I was doing. And that was the mistake I was making. So these are the types of conversations I was having with guys. And I've never, ever wanted to sit and listen in on a conversation. I've always wanted to be participating in the conversation. And if not, I want to be leading that conversation. So I threw my hat in the ring, and I saw a lot of guys out there doing some amazing things with masculinity and how to help guys become better men, because I connected with them through my self-discovery process. And I said, you know what? I think I've got something to offer here. And I wanted to throw my hat in the ring, and I really just kind of went at it wholeheartedly with Order of Man. And I haven't looked back really since that, which has been just under a year and a half now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know the feeling. It's kind of like I don't know if you've read that book, Hold On to Your Nuts. I know that we've talked about it.
Oh, I've heard about it, but is it, maybe you introduced it to me? Yeah, I don't think I read it.
So it's called Hold On to Your Nuts by Wayne Levine. And one of the biggest things that he talks about is how a lot of men, especially that didn't have father figures or that had father figures that became absentee. And I know that's part of your story. It's also part of mine. But one of the biggest things is getting over being a little boy. Like, we still have this hurt little boy inside of us. And that sounds like a lot of what you're saying. But on top of that, the question is, so what makes Order of Man different from the other, like, you know, male empowerment blogs or podcasts that are out there?
It's action. I mean, I can narrow that down to one word: action. So here's what I saw when I looked at what was available. I see some amazing information out there. One in particular that I did mention is Art of Manliness. I mean, you can't talk about masculinity and having this conversation without that site and Brett McKay and the good work that he's doing, without that coming to mind. But on the other side of that is I realized that there was a real need for men to take this information that's available, and then how do we actually apply it? Because I'm not teaching anything that isn't already available, and anybody out there, whatever topic it is, is not teaching new information. They're teaching information that's been around forever. But the reason that we can still continue to teach it is because nobody's taking action on it. So I wanted to narrow that gap between what we know and what we read about and what we listen to how are we actually implementing this great information into our lives to impact our lives and the people we love and literally the entire nation and the entire planet. So I really came at it with the goal of saying, guys, look, here's the information, but more importantly is here's how we actually implement that. So the Facebook group's part of that. The exclusive mastermind group is part of that, where we're actually doing the work we're talking about, not just reading some great information or something to entertain ourselves with, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, it does. And it is. It's all about action for real.
Always.
And that's fantastic. And I think that's something that's hugely lacking. I haven't listened to the brand new episode out yet, but I just listened to Eric Davis's episode yesterday. That's a powerful dude right there with his stuff on so if our audience wants to listen, it's episode 68 on Order of Man podcast. It's fantastic.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
That guy's he's a beast.
He is. And you know what's so crazy? I mean, Eric Davis, if you're not familiar with him, he's a Navy SEAL. He trained Marcus Luttrell and Chris Kyle as SEAL snipers. And you know what's crazy? If you didn't know that about him, you wouldn't know that about him. I mean, he's such a down-to-earth guy, and he's got such a great, obviously, presence and head on his shoulders, but he's just so humble, and he just wants to help. And that's a pretty cool thing when you've got somebody who's such a badass like he is, but you really wouldn't know that unless you knew that outside of your conversation with him.
Right. Absolutely.
And I've met, several folks that fit that caliber, and that's the thing is oftentimes people watch, movies or television shows, and they get this perception of what that type of a warrior, ethos.
Yes, that machismo.
That badassery, right? A lot of people just get this false sense of the way they really are, and you're right. A lot of these guys are just very, very humble, very down to earth, willing to help anybody. But I mean, at the same time, you almost kind of need a lot of those elements in order to be successful in a profession like that. You know what I mean?
You do. And I think that humility, it's kind of interesting. It actually comes probably from a position of confidence. So I know that sounds really weird because they almost are counteract each other. But if you think about it, like, he's confident. He knows what he can do. He knows what he can't do. And because he's confident, he doesn't have anything to prove to anybody. So he doesn't need to walk around with a big head. He doesn't need to walk around beating on his chest. He just walks around, does his thing, and impacts his life and the people he cares about. And if you're on board with that, great. If you're not, great. He doesn't really care, but he doesn't have to prove anything at this point.
And I think another point that he made in that episode, and you know what, you do it a lot with the Order of Man too, is that if you don't know, go find out.
Yeah.
Go figure it out. Take the action, read a book, go to school, just get the experience, and then execute.
There's a great Latin quote, if I can, Bennett, real quick. I was just going to tell you, I can't say it in Latin, but the phrase is, "I will find a way or make one." I mean, that's absolutely. Like, that's my motto for life. Like, if you can't figure it out, figure it out. Like, if you don't know what it is, I mean, we've got so much information at the palm of our hands, but it's sad how little we actually use it to impact our lives and those that are around us.
Yeah, you're right. So in your opinion, Ryan, working with all these men, if you could pin down one or two things that they have in common, what would they be? I mean, in terms of, what trends do you see? Absentee fatherism? Do you see lack of confidence, lack of direction, lack of mentorship? Like, what is it? What's the common thread amongst these men?
So what I do when anybody signs up or opts in to get emails from me on the information that we send out, I always ask them, what's the number one thing that you're struggling with as a man right now? And the overwhelming response that I get is always confidence issues. Like, I'm not confident in work. I don't know how to ask my boss for a raise. I'm not confident with women. I just don't feel quite right. I feel uneasy. And a lot of that comes down to the second most popular answer, which is lack of discipline. So I know, again, we talk about this. Everybody knows what to do. Like, there's not anybody out there who doesn't know how to get in better shape, right? Just move a little bit more, eat a little better, or build wealth, or whatever. But they lack the discipline to implement it in their lives. And what's interesting is when you start to be disciplined by creating processes and systems, and then you're actually taking action, that's what builds the confidence. You can't have confidence first because you haven't earned it. So you've got to have courage. And I think that's what it comes down to. If more people had courage to take action, even though they may not be ready, that's going to yield discipline because they're going to continue to do it, which builds confidence. And because you have confidence, then you're more willing to take more action. And it's just this cycle of positivity rather than the opposite way, the other way around.
Yeah. So what causes these guys to have lack of confidence? Is it something that they grew up with? Is it something that they've been turned down enough times they finally, put their head in the sand and just, they're whipped? I mean, like, how does it come to be? I mean, we are children. We're all given that same slate, right? We all grow up different paths, but we all, may or may not have been given the same opportunities. But I mean, what is it that builds, before I ask what builds confidence, how do these guys find themselves with the lack of confidence? What causes that?
So I mean, I'm not a psychologist, right? So I don't know where necessarily it comes from. I know for me, I had a lot of confidence issues growing up, and I think that stemmed from not having a male father figure, a permanent father figure in my life. I think that's certainly part of it, but at the end of the day, I think a lot of it comes down to fear. It's just fear, and everybody has fear, but some people have found a way to overcome it. So maybe they've been ridiculed, maybe they've been mocked, maybe they had a bad experience, or maybe they haven't, but they're actually just afraid, or they've seen somebody else go through something. Maybe they tried to start a business and they got ridiculed and mocked, or maybe that business failed or they went bankrupt and they don't want to be that person. So I think it all comes down to fear, and getting to the point of fear where it's actually paralyzing you is a bad thing. Now, I look at fear a little bit different. Fear is actually, and emotions, not just fear, but your emotions in general are a good thing. I think too many men out there are trying to hide our emotions. We play this game of stoicism, and there's certainly elements of that, but our emotions are there to serve us. They're not there to hinder us. We don't need to manipulate or control our emotions. We need to understand them. Why are you afraid? Right? Or why are you sad? Or why are you mad? Why are you happy right now? If you can pause and reflect upon that for a minute. Now, to get back to that fear element, the reason that we're afraid is because it's biologically programmed into us to avoid danger, because we need to stay alive as human beings. Plants do it, right? If you go chop off a root of a tree or a tomato plant, for example, it's going to actually grow better because it's threatened. And so we do the same thing. We want to run away as humans from that. But over tens of thousands of years, the odds of us getting in a fight with a saber-toothed tiger are just non-existent. But that fear is still present, even though the outcome is not.
Yeah, really quick, I want to touch on what you talked about with emotions in terms of men and emotions. I used to coach my son's youth football team I was assistant coach for several years. And it was so eye-opening to me to be out on the field with a bunch of young men, young adults, and and they care about the game. They've put in a lot of effort throughout the week and practice and etc. And something happens and the play doesn't go quite right, and some of our players, they were very emotional filled games and some things, and then all of a sudden you would hear. And it's usually the fathers on the sidelines yelling, into the players on the field, quit your crying, men don't cry, that kind of thing. And, oftentimes these boys would come off the field onto the sidelines, and I would, go over to them out away from sight of their father and say, look at them, with their tear-filled eyes and say, it's okay. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel emotion because it means that you care.
Yes.
I would be concerned if you didn't have any emotions, because it would tell me that you didn't care. You missed that pass, or you dropped that ball, or you missed that play, or whatever, and you care enough about not only your success, but you care about letting the team down. And I said it's okay to feel that. And it just strikes me so much that a lot of grown men think that men shouldn't cry, and they teach that to their kids.
Right. I mean, I think that's why it's so important as men, as a father, if you're a father, that you be involved that way. If you're not a father, that's okay. You can still be involved in the community. I try to coach all of my kids as sports teams. My oldest son, gets really down on himself in games if he misses a pass or strikes out or whatever it may be. And the best thing that I can do with him when he gets upset is to literally put my arm around him and say, why are you upset, dude? If I can get him talking about, well, I'm upset because I missed this pass, or I'm upset because I struck out. Okay, great. So that tells us something. What does that tell us? Well, it tells us I'm not good enough, which might be the truth at this point. Okay, so if that's the case, what can we do about that? Well, maybe, Dad, we can practice at home so I can be better, so I can catch that pass next time, or I can hit that ball, or I can steal that base. All right, cool. So now your emotions of being upset because you failed are now serving you the way that they're actually designed to serve you.
Right.
And to get better.
And also turning it into an actionable experience. So you can,
Exactly.
you can, yeah.
Yeah. What's your thought on everyone gets a trophy? This no one keeps score. Everyone gets a trophy. Well, what's your take on that?
Oh, I think we're crippling kids. I mean, that's the reality. I mean, you might as well just like break one of their legs or something, because the reality is life doesn't work that way.
Yeah,
It just doesn't. And it might feel nice. It's warm and fuzzy right now, but what happens when they're 20 years old and they don't get the promotion because they didn't do the work, and the guy next to him gets the promotion? And then what does the guy do? He blames it on office politics, or it's just politics in the office, when in all reality, it's not politics. It just means that he did a better job than you, but you didn't get the promotion because you didn't deserve it. And I can't, I mean, that's every element of life. And if we keep giving kids everything that we think they should have rather than the things they actually deserved, they're in for a rude awakening when life really hits them.
Yeah, it's that entitlement.
Yeah.
We're breeding it. So Ryan, you're a big supporter. Just switching gears here for a second. You're a big supporter and have participated in a few. I'm not sure how many, but I'm sure you can tell us how many Spartan races you've been a part of.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So talk to us about surviving the 60-hour Spartan Agoge event that you just did.
Yeah, that was actually a lot of fun. I had Joe DeSena on my podcast, and I said something to the effect of, I like signing up for things before I'm ready because they force me to actually get ready.
Right.
And he called me out. He said, "Oh, great. We'll have you sign up for the 60-hour Spartan." I didn't even think he said 60-hour. I think he said, "Why don't you sign up for the Spartan Agoge?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll do that." And I try to be a man of my word. And so I said, "Yeah, I'll do it." And I looked afterwards. I'm like, "Oh my goodness, what did I get myself into?" But you're right, 60 hours. We went into Vermont, which is where his ranch is, and spent 60 hours basically just doing whatever. I mean, this was like military basic training all over again, except for it was a 60-hour event and it was hyper intense. It was designed to test you mentally. They were trying to get you to quit that first 24 hours. We were hiking the mountains with 40-pound rucks and carrying a kayak with water filled with it. And then we had this 6 or 7 foot PVC pipe. It was like a 7-inch PVC pipe. Somebody said it was filled with concrete. So we're carrying that all over the mountains. And it was brutal. But at the same time, I learned a lot about myself and what I can do and how far I can actually push myself physically and mentally before I'm really ready to throw in the towel.
Yeah, listening to it truly reminded me of like when I was in when I became a reconnaissance Marine, going through the training and going through Hell Week.
Yeah.
It really almost sounded like that. And I'm like, yeah, but you paid money to do that.
I paid money. And the other thing is I'm 17 years older than when I did it when I was 18.
Oh, God.
So I got to this thing. I'm like, well, I went through basic training. Like, I can do this. And then I got thinking, I'm like, that was almost 2 decades ago. Can I still do it? Which was actually part of the draw. And I remember getting there, and they had the cadre. They called him Cryptea. And we had left some trash on one of the hills, and obviously that's a no-no, right? But they're going to find any way to smoke you they can. So we get back to this meeting area, and he pulls out this trash, and who knows, maybe he just pulled it out of his pocket from a candy bar
Right.
he had earlier.
Exactly.
And he said, "You guys left this there." And he made us do I don't know how many burpees, and I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go. This is exactly what's going to happen. And that's a mental game, right? And I felt like I was a little bit more prepared for it because I had done it before. But I think a lot of guys who hadn't gone through military before, that really screwed with them, so it was about mental fortitude and toughness. And it was actually a really, really good experience for me.
It's awesome.
So be honest now. We can be honest with each other.
Of course.
Compared to your time in the military, how did that compare?
I think the activities were probably very comparable. It was a little bit more intense just because in the 60 hours, we got 4 hours of rest. And I think in basic training, we probably would have gotten 8 hours of rest in that time or something like that. You know what I mean? So there's that. I'm older, but I'm also feel like I'm stronger, not necessarily conditioned better, stronger. But but I think anybody who could complete basic training could probably complete that. It's a mental game. I mean, I think just about anybody probably physically could take care of that, but mentally it was pretty tough. It really was.
That's right.
So how many Spartan races have you done?
I've probably done maybe 7 or 8 in the last couple of years, somewhere in there. I had a buddy that invited me to the Bahama cruise. It was a Spartan race in the Bahamas, and he invited me to that. And I went and did a 3.5, 4 mile course with my wife. It was incredible, and that's kind of where I got hooked. And I came back, and it was nowhere near what the Bahamas experience was, but I was hooked already, so we just kept going with it.
Yeah, it's awesome. I've done 2 sprints last year.
Yeah.
The first one was in Killington, Vermont.
Oh yeah.
Oh my! So a sprint up and down that mountain kicked
brutal.
my ass. Yeah, it was awesome, but yeah, it took a while.
I
went with my daughter. It was.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say I went with my daughter, and well, it was a whole team of us. We had 12 guys that started on this team, and my daughter, and everyone just kind of split off at their own pace. You know, at the end of the day, but stuck with my daughter, and we got through it, and it's just an awesome experience. I mean, the whole point of any obstacle, whether it be a man-made obstacle or an obstacle in your life, is once you get through it and you're on the other side, you look back and you're like, damn, I did something I didn't previously think I could. You know what I mean?
Well, and this is all about setting new reference points as well. I think too many guys just coast through life and they never set these reference points where they actually do anything hard, whether it be physically or mentally or emotionally. And anytime they run into this little barrier, it literally destroys them. It cripples them. It keeps them from moving forward and accomplishing what they want to accomplish. So if you can do something hard in any area of your life, in this case, physical, and get through that, you're more able now. You have the tools and the resources and the ideas and thought process to say, hey, look, I just did this 4-mile race in the hills, the mountains up and down in Vermont. I could definitely do whatever it is you're asking me to do now. So it sets new reference points for you.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Is in my opinion, I mean, I spent a year in Korea and I spent a year in Baghdad, and I've seen a little bit of the world outside the United States, and I don't know what your experience has been, but mine has been, a lot of Americans. Quitting is too easy of an option anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm in Baghdad, and there's an 8-year-old boy that had one arm ripped off in a refinery or a machinery accident at a company, at a job that he worked at, because he at 8 years old was the sole provider of his family because he was the oldest male. And he had to do that to make enough money to bring home, food to feed his entire family. He doesn't get to quit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of Americans, we live and I'm overgeneralizing, I'm sure, but in this country, it is so easy to just give up and quit. And I don't think, to your point, Ryan, too many people, they get pressed up against one little thing that's a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit too difficult than they're used to, and they just throw in the towel. You know what I mean?
Right. And everybody says it's okay. It's not. I'll give you the opposite. Right. It's not okay. Like, it's not okay to be mediocre. I don't know about you guys, but when I was overseas and I was in Iraq, we had a sign right on the gate, and it said "Complacency kills." Mm-hmm. And in this case, it literally kills. Like, if you become comfortable, complacent, mediocre, average, you coast, you're gonna die. I mean, that's the reality of it. But I think more people need to take that same approach in their everyday life. That if I become complacent, that complacency is going to kill. It kills the hopes that I have. It kills the dreams that I have, the potential that I have. And it's not okay to quit. It's just not. I mean, sometimes you got to back out of some things because of whatever, but more often than not, you just need to knuckle down and push through it, and you'll come out fine. And in fact, you'll come out stronger.
It's one of my favorite things from the episode, the Eric Davis episode that he had talked about, is that we learned a certain way of being a man from the generation ahead of us. Now, I'm the same age as Eric. I'm 42. He's 43, I think. And Eddie's not that far behind me. And I think you're a little younger, right, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm 35.
So, but still not that far out.
Yeah, not too far behind.
And you're still in that generation that signed up to go fight this war and basically, everything else. So we had learned, this machismo way of being, right? And
Sure.
that men don't cry, and that we get into fights, and that we this is how we protect our own. We're stoic and don't talk a lot, because heaven forbid if we show emotion. And then a lot of us went off to war for the next 10 to 15 years, and come back, and the country was taken over by guys wearing skinny jeans.
Right.
And
right.
that's the new mentality of what a man should be, is this, is this idea. And I think that's a huge point, that and this is why we are doing what we do, is to bring it back to the way that men should be.
Yeah, I honestly think that we're in a way, and the term I use is over domesticated. I really think that's the case.
Over-domesticated is great.
I mean, the reality is that if you guys are familiar with John Eldridge, he has this quote that I absolutely love. It's one of my favorite quotes, and it goes like this: deep in his heart, every man longs for a battle to fight, an adventure to live, and a beauty to rescue. And what's cool about that, I mean, I think about my military service: a battle to fight, check; an adventure to live. I mean, we're living in what literally was an Iraqi detention center across the planet, check; a beauty to rescue. I wanted to come home and be with my wife, check. All of those things apply, but then you get into quote unquote civilian life. How many of us are doing that? Are we fighting battles? No, we're domesticated. Are we living adventurous? No, we go do our 9 to 5 every single day, and we have somebody else tell us what to do. And a beauty to rescue, man, most marriages are mediocre and average and ordinary at best.
At best, right.
Yep.
At best. So we've got, with Order of Man, you have this upcoming event called Uprising, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
In September?
It is, yep, in September.
So talk to us about that.
Yeah, so again, it's all about action. I want to take the ideas and the things that we're learning and talking about, and I actually want to start implementing those things. So I leased out a cabin in southern Utah. It's in September. Let's see, what are the dates? I think it's the 15th through the 18th are the dates. And my goal is to, again, help guys become stronger, help them become better leaders in their own lives, in their community, in their families, and all the things that are important to them. So we've got some tactical stuff that we're going to do to help people think on their feet a little bit. We've got some survival scenarios to get people thinking, and these men adapting to different situations. We're going to start out with morning rituals and morning routines and help men craft their own routine. And then we're going to do some after action reviews, which of course is a military term, right? At the end of every day, to go back and say, all right, what did I do? What didn't I do? What did I learn? What do I want to accomplish tomorrow? So really, we want to arm everybody who comes with the tools and the resources to grab their life by the balls, right? To fulfill that quote that I just went through, to have a battle to fight, like have something to be passionate about, live your life adventurous, and then go rescue that beauty, whether that's a spouse or a girlfriend or whatever. We want you to chase those things. We're going to give you the tools to do it.
So, is there a cap? Is there a limit to the guys that are going to do this, or?
Yeah, this first event we've got 25 spots available, and I think we've got just over half of those spots filled as of this recording. So we're a couple of months out. We're going to fill those spots up, especially as I continue to share. But we'd love to have anybody that's interested. We'd love to have them out. All they have to do is get to Vegas, and then I'm going to take care of the rest. So it's pretty cool.
Do you have your own cadre?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we've got instructors that are going to come talk about relationships. I just signed on a guy to do some of the physical fitness training. So every morning we're going to come up, we're going to wake up, we're going to do PT. It's not going to be intense like the Agogi was, but I want to arm these guys with the ability to know what they need to do to take care of their bodies and nutrition. And so this guy's an expert. He's going to come in and talk about that. We've got a guy who is an MMA fighter. He's going to talk about some basic self-defense type things. So we've got it all covered. So yeah, we've got the instructors and the cadre covered for sure.
Just a manly weekend.
That's right. Yeah, we're going to kick some ass.
Now you say southern Utah. Whereabouts?
In St. George. Are you guys familiar with the area?
Well, I grew up in Elko, Nevada, which is pretty close to Salt Lake City. So.
Yeah, we're actually a lot further south. We're about 4 hours south of Salt Lake. We're only an hour and a half to 2 hours north of Las Vegas. So we're actually closer to Vegas than Salt Lake.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool, man.
It's gonna be
you're out there by the National Training Center almost then.
Yeah, that's right.
Almost by NTC, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I bet you've had
place.
a few.
Oh, miserable.
God,
I spent, what did I spend? A month? I think we were there for a month before we shipped overseas.
That's California dreaming, baby.
Yeah, it was brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah. So, I mean, you were doing some awesome stuff with the Order of Man? I mean, and it's really only been a year and a half. Would you have imagined a year and a half ago that you would be where you are right now with the Order of Man?
It's it's definitely going faster than I thought it would. I'll put it that way. I always had big visions, big ideas of what I wanted this to become. So it's not surprising that it's growing because of the conversations I was having, but I am excited and a little bit surprised at how quickly it's actually taken off. That's exciting to me.
And one of the things I really want to bring up about you, Ryan, is that you weren't like a natural entrepreneur. Like it didn't, like you didn't,
No,
you weren't one of those kids that was out there doing the lemonade stands
or selling pet rocks or no,
right.
I wasn't doing that stuff. No, I mean, I did some chores around the house to earn a couple of bucks every week from my mom, but the reality is I just didn't have any idea. I was the employee mindset. You know, you just go to work and you do your thing and hopefully you get a good job. I didn't even go to college. I mean, I just didn't really know what to do. I had this I didn't know. I was lost. And this entrepreneur route has really spoken to me. And I think it's actually empowering to a lot of people who say, you know, I wasn't out selling baseball cards or I wasn't out doing these things that a lot of guys, this is the crazy thing. A lot of these entrepreneurs now will talk about what they were doing when they were 2 years old. And you got to question if that's reality. I'll tell you, that wasn't for me. The entrepreneurship was the furthest thing from my mind, but it's something that every single person can do if it speaks to them. Not that they have to, but if it speaks to them, it's certainly something everybody can get involved with.
I just like the idea of, and that's what I push because I'm not one of those guys either, really. I mean, I used to mow the occasional lawn, but it was more my mom it was more like, hey, go, you know, mow Dr. somebody's lawn. He'll give you $5 for it. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And then, I mean, once I got older, now I've had three failed businesses at this point.
Is that right?
Yeah. So I'm learning, you know, but I just like to show that, you know what, it's just about a mindset and it's about just going out there and doing it. And you don't have to be some like natural, you can teach yourself to do this stuff.
Oh, for sure.
You don't have to have this innate ability. I mean, it always helps to have the talent, just like it would with like a guy like LeBron James. Talent. Right. But on top of that, he wouldn't have been as dominant as he's been because the man has a work ethic.
Well, I mean, there's plenty of people out there. I mean, there's plenty of people out there who are talented that have never done anything with their life.
Absolutely. And that's the flip side to that. So it's just nice to see people that it's not so natural, or maybe it is natural. It just took us a while to get there. So
yeah. Great point.
So what does Order of Man look like 10 years from now, if you were to just venture to guess?
That, you know, that's one I always kind of steer clear of and be a little cautious of, because if I were to tell you exactly what it looks like, I'd be lying. I don't. This is kind of a roller coaster. I have ideas and visions and things that I want. I definitely want it to become even more and more impactful in men's lives across the planet. I'd really like to create the world's largest fraternity or organization or society where men could come and connect and learn what's working, learn what isn't, be real with each other without being assholes to each other, and helping each other out. So I don't know what that looks like. That might be, maybe we do more retreats, maybe there's courses. I mean, there's always something going on, but I don't want to ever pigeonhole myself into anything as well, because there's always new things to be learned. Like there's podcasting, which is a cool medium that wasn't available several years ago, and blogging and making money online, and now we have digital courses, and it's easy for anybody to write a book. So there's always these cool things, which is part of the draw for me of entrepreneurship, that I can always talk about masculinity, but I can do it in a way that's refreshing and engaging to me, because I'm waking up and I'm doing something different today than I did yesterday, and tomorrow I'll do something completely different than both of these days.
And I think that's one of the things that's inspiring for us. And I think actually, I'm, you know, I brought a lot of this stuff to Eddie, and I'm following your lead and the fact that you're living it right now. So you're not some expert at any of
no,
this.
Of course. Yeah.
So what's so attractive is that you're living it and we're living it with you. And so that's not like, you might be a little bit ahead of where we're at, you know what I mean? But you know, that's the beauty, is that we can all learn from each other. And that's what is so attractive about this whole concept.
Well, and in addition to that, I mean, it's pretty cool to create your own life too. Like I took 2 hours before I jumped on the phone with you guys to go work on my boys' bunk beds, because that's I told them I'm making bunk beds, and I did. So it's pretty cool that I've got the flexibility midday to be able to do that. And I know a lot of guys, especially these quote unquote entrepreneur type guys, will say, you got to hustle, you got to work 80 hours a week. Hey, look, if that's your thing, do it. That's not my thing. I don't want to work 80 hours a week. I want to hustle at home just as much as I hustle in the office. And so it's really cool to be able to create whatever you want. If you want to work 100 hours a week, do it. If you want to work 20 hours a week and spend the rest of your time on the beach, do it. But it's all about being deliberate and intentional about the life that you're trying to create.
Yeah, we're working on the Lemonade Crusade tonight.
There you go.
You know what that is?
No, I don't know what it is.
Oh my gosh, it's fantastic. Just type into Google, look up Lemonade Crusade.
Okay.
It's basically teaching your kids all about entrepreneurship, but with a lemonade stand.
Oh, very cool.
On marketing, I mean everything, man.
Oh, that's cool.
So
tell me what
check
it is. Lemonade Crusade, you said?
The Lemonade Crusade, and that's all you gotta type in. And yeah, the guy that came up with it's a genius.
That's cool.
And his kids are just like some exceptional, he's doing some good things.
Of course.
I was yeah. So he check it out, man. I'm telling you. And that's
cool.
That's to all of our listeners too. So we're going to do that this weekend with the kids. We already built the lemonade stand, and it's all about teaching them. I mean, it teaches them how to upsell everything. It's crazy.
Really?
It's really awesome.
Very cool.
So
we do something around here. We've got a cherry tree in the back. I'll send you guys a picture because I built a lemonade stand, and what I did for my boys is I actually charged them for my time and the product of building their lemonade stand. And what they did is when they went out there to sell cherries and lemonade, they had to pay me back a portion of their profits till they paid it off. They paid that lemonade stand, which was about $150-$160 off, in one weekend.
Yeah,
it was unreal. And so we do what we call the cherry picker project around here. It sounds very similar, but I'm going to check it out. Yeah, I'm going to check it out.
This has literally got this. Yeah, it's great. You got to go through it. The upselling and that stuff is amazing.
Very cool.
It's really
very cool.
So we do have a fair amount of female listeners that change your POV, and I'm sure a lot of them out there are thinking to themselves right now, like, isn't this kind of, egotistic? No, maybe not egotistical is the wrong word, but isn't this a little like just like an all man thing? Like, what's the deal with it just being an all man thing? Can't there be women? What's the value in there being just men? I mean, do women benefit from Order of Man it only being men? Like how are women affected? Well, I know, but I'm asking this question for our audiences because they can't ask it, so I'm going to. So how are women impacted, or how are they affected by what you're doing with Order of Man?
Well, I think there's a couple of different ways. And what's interesting is I've gone for a year and a half and I had the same questions that you did about this as I started. Like, are women going to feel ostracized? Are they going to feel like I'm not including them? And the reality is I have not had one single woman, now that I say that, I probably will, be upset with what I'm doing. Not one has said this is chauvinistic or you're only worrying about men. But you know what I do get? I get a ton of response from women who do say this also applies to women, to which it does. I wholeheartedly agree. There's some things that we talk about that may not. And I think part of the deal and draw for me making it only about men is that regardless of the way we feel about it, when women enter the picture, that changes the dynamic of men and their conversation. So I want to create something where guys can be open amongst themselves and not worry too much about how a woman would interpret that, because these are the conversations we need to have. Now, that being said, I truly believe that women want the males in their life to act and behave like men.
Yes.
To be providers, to be protectors, to be leaders. And society is just not getting that in the measure that we are craving it, that women want it, that other men are looking for guidance and direction. And so the women who reach out to me are actually the ones that are sharing it with their husbands, because they want their husbands to act like men. And so that's how they benefit from it, because just as much as I get and I'm uplifted by my wife, women are uplifted by the men in their life. And we work in conjunction, although we do different things and we're different people and we behave and talk and act in different ways. We serve each other well when we're operating at full capacity in our own gender, as women and as men.
Yes, that's a huge point. I mean, men just spend too much time trying to fix problems
Sure.
the
Yeah.
problems for their women, and
Yeah.
their women just want them to lead.
Yeah.
Just be the leader of the family, be the leader in the bedroom, be the leader, you know what I mean? Just take the reins and do what you're put on this earth to do.
Right.
And let her be a woman and let a man be a man. Too often you have the reversal of roles. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with women being breadwinners in a family, but there still has to be that whole that you guys know exactly what I'm saying, and I'm not articulating it very well, but
Well,
Yeah,
this can get even a little bit deeper, and I know we're probably
yeah,
touching
we're,
maybe
we're
against
getting to
time,
this
but
time here.
there's feminine energy and there's masculine energy, and you have to have both. Like, you have to have both. If you have only masculine or only feminine, there's going to be some issues. All right. And if a man is not bringing the masculine energy, then just naturally the woman has to fulfill that obligation. So I actually hear a lot of women men who say, my wife is not as passionate, she doesn't find me attractive, she's not engaged. That's because she's doing your job. So you've taken all of her energy, all of your energy, and then you've also taken her energy, and you're asking her to be the masculine and feminine energy. You need to find a way to bring your own energy so that she's re-engaged with you.
She's got nothing left at the end of the day.
Of course she doesn't. You took it all from her.
Right. Yeah, man.
Wow, Ryan. Wow, I cannot believe I've got like a ton more questions. This is just such an awesome conversation. The topic, and I think the reason why it's so intriguing, Ryan and Bennett, is because there are so few people having this conversation today. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it so needs to be had. And for those of you that are listening, if this is at all interesting to you whatsoever, I encourage you to head on over to the Order of Man, and Ryan, you're going to give us all your links here in a minute. But you know what? It's time to act. It's time to do, and it's time to get back to what it is we need to be doing as men. Providers for our women and for our children. And man, I got one question. Well, Bennett, we're completely out of time. I got one last question. And thanks again, Ryan, for coming on the show,
Yeah,
man.
you bet. Happy to.
I'm really, really excited about it. And if we ever get the opportunity to have you on again, we'll amp it up and ask you harder questions, because you didn't seem very hesitant to answer any of these questions.
Wasn't much challenge there.
No, not much challenge. It's almost like you've been doing this for about a year and a half.
Hey, look, I welcome the challenge. If you guys can stump me, I'm all for it.
So, as you know, this show is called Change Your POV, or Point of View. Give us a time or a point in your life or a situation you ran across where you thought something one way, but a situation or an event or a circumstance happened that just caused you to look at things from a different perspective. What was it, and what did you learn from that experience?
I can even talk about, in the context of what we're talking about right now, I used to think that the male was the dominant, that he was the aggressor, that he pushed people around and he bullied and he coerced. And that's how the man behaved. And I believed that because that's what I had seen in my young life, is that that's how the man behaves. And it took me hitting rock bottom with my wife and I separating for me to realize that that's not how the man behaves. Yes, a man can be assertive. Yes, we're more prone to be aggressive. Yes, we need to take the reins at times, but we need to understand that we also need to be compassionate, and we need to be caring. We need to provide. We need to take care of the women in our lives, and we really need to tone that back. It's not about aggression and forcing people to do what we want. It's about being assertive. So letting people know what it is that we're after and what we want to accomplish, and then helping other people do the exact same thing in their lives.
That's awesome. Very cool, Ryan. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Where can people find more about you, more about Order of Man, what you got going on in this upcoming event that you got?
Yeah, well, guys, I want to let you know I appreciate you and the work you're doing, and the opportunity to come talk with you as well. I had a great time. As far as where you can find us, orderofman.com is our website. You can find everything there. If you're interested in the retreat, it's orderofman.com/uprising. And then if you're a man and you're interested in some of these conversations, I would direct you to our Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups/orderofman. And those are the 3 resources I'd give you today.
You can find all the show notes for this episode over at changeyourpov.com/episode 74. Never miss an episode. Hit subscribe on your podcast player of choice. We have a lot more great content headed your way. If you want to reach out to me directly, you can email me at eddie@changeyourpov.com. If you got any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, if you are a woman and you want to hand over your husband, then head on over to Order of Man and do so promptly. Ryan will be glad to have him.
That's right.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to Change Your POV podcast with Eddie Lazary. Check out more content by going to changeyourpov.com. And remember, your ability and willingness to change your point of view will open doors of opportunity.
Bennett, what's up, man? How are you?
Good, Ryan. How are you? We're here with
I am really good.
Eddie,
Thank you.
my partner, Eddie Lazary.
Hello, sir. How are you doing?
Fellow fister.
Good. How are you doing?
Good. I am a fister. I heard you were field artillery, Ryan. Is that true?
Is that right?
Hello?
That is true. I was. Yep.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Hold on. Let me check my internet real quick because you guys are coming in kind of sketchy here.
Okay.
All right. How's that? Is that better?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, much better. What'd you do?
Yeah.
Just waited for a second.
Magic fairy dust.
Right.
That's right. No magic pill for me. Just wait and it'll work itself out.
Nice.
Love it.
Yeah. So cool.
So yeah. So what'd you do in the army?
I was fire direction control. It's not what I did in Iraq when we were over there, but that was my MOS 13 Delta and
13 Delta.
Yep. So did that. Yeah. I think we started
FDC.
FDC. That's right.
Yeah.
What was it before? They changed it because we got a new system for our paladins we were shooting. I can't even remember what it was prior to 13 Delta. I can't remember. Anyways, that's what we did. How about you? What'd you do?
I was 13 Fox.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Forward
observers, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I was the guy looking at the targets, calling back to the FSC, and then the FSC would call the FDC, convert all the shit, and then that would then go to the gun bunnies.
Yep. Send that down to the guns. That's right. Cool.
That's right. So
Good
I was
times.
not smart. I was not smart enough to be FDC, but I was smart. I was smarter. I was smart enough to not be a gun bunny. Let's put it that
That's
way.
right. That's right. Yep. You were in between, right?
Yeah, that's right. But you're right. Nobody does their job in Iraq, right? I mean,
No.
When were you there?
I was there in 0506.
Oh, okay. I was there 04 or 05. Where were you at?
I was in Ramadi.
Okay. I was in Baghdad.
Yeah, he was there the same time Penny was there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Is that who we talked with last time?
Yeah. That was a little overlap.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Very cool. Small world.
Oh, yeah.
It is.
Good.
Oh, man. Well, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Happy to. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So Bennett's like, hey, Eddie, you got to check out this podcast, man. It's with this really cool guy. He's got a beard like Penny, and he talks about some really cool shit. And I'm
his
like,
beard is way more epic now.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like,
you go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, did he stop or scale back or what? He stopped letting it grow?
No, he just kind of keeps it where it's at. You know.
Oh, okay.
And so
yeah.
it's a pretty manly thing, but yours is just, you're getting some length.
We're getting there. Getting there.
It's like nipple length now.
If I wouldn't, I've trimmed it a couple of times. If I wouldn't have it, it probably would be. But we're just I don't know, probably at like 5 or 6 inches right now.
Damn, it's crazy.
So why did you start growing it right out of when you got out, or?
No. My wife, which is kind of funny. My wife, about a year and a half ago, she said, because I used to keep it, that sexy stubble, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and she said you can either shave it or grow it out, but you can't keep it like that anymore because I don't like it. It hurts. And so I said, all right, fine. And I grew it out, and I haven't cut it since. I mean, I've
See,
trimmed
what's
it up.
funny is my wife's is a little different because I've had it stubble for so long.
Yeah.
That it like is soft now, or something.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So I keep that. I just use a razor, like a regular, like the razor they shave your head with.
Yeah. Right.
I shave my head and my face all the same length.
Oh, you do?
So
Oh, that makes it
it's
convenient.
what I do now. So, but it's so, I guess I've had it for that length for so long, it's soft. Because if I grow a beard,
Okay,
she's
yeah.
like, oh no, you're done.
Really?
Because I have a lot of
That's
gray.
funny.
I have a lot of gray, so it
Yeah.
ages me like 10, 15 years. So anyway,
Hey, to each their own, I guess.
Yep.
Cool.
All right. Cool, man.
Well, tell me what we're doing. Tell me on the show, like the length, all that kind of stuff, so I know what to expect. Who are we talking to? All that kind of fun stuff.
Well, you're talking to just us.
Okay.
You're talking about our audience.
Yeah, your audience.
So, Change Your POV podcast, it started out being really, really heavy veteran centric, and we still have a large veteran audience. However, it's kind of grown a little bit in terms of who the audience is and who listens. And we're getting into more like, lifestyle stuff. And I mean, there's only so many episodes you can talk about PTSD and the effects of PTSD and veteran suicide. And there's just so much information out there that caters to that. So we're kind of doing a lot of different things. We've had some really great guests on. I don't know if you're familiar with Mark Horseman from Manager Tools.
Bennett mentioned him, but yeah, it wasn't before that.
Yeah, he's a West Point grad, and he's really big in the business space, but not so much like in the veteran space. But that's the kind of thing is we're trying to grab people that are doing really awesome things, and they may or may not, or just happen to be veterans also, just to kind of, you know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
And then we're big into, entrepreneur and not just people that are getting out of the military looking to start their own business, because, I tried that. I failed. I have a failed business coming out of the military, and, I'm still very much so an entrepreneur at heart. And so that's kind of why Change Your POV kind of started. It's kind of like a side thing.
I think what it comes down to is we're really just following our passions. So everything from just personal development to, it's very much like, frankly, it's very much like Order of Man, just going about it differently. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just a different angle.
Yeah, just a different angle. So
yeah,
very cool.
So that's
so
really
you
it.
basically you fit right in. That's what we're saying.
Well, good, man. I'm good. I'm glad.
Yeah, one of the guys for sure.